Dr. Amanda Blackwood hadn't slept in 36 hours when the Vaxari ships appeared above Houston. She was hunched over her desk at NASA's Xenolinguistics Division, reviewing patterns in deep space signals, when her coffee mug began to vibrate. At first, she dismissed it as another shuttle launch, but then the entire building started to shake. Dr. Blackwood, her assistant, burst through the door, face pale. "You need to see this." The sky above Johnson Space Center had turned from crystal blue to an otherworldly purple as thousands of massive ships emerged from what appeared to be tiers in space itself. Each vessel was easily the size of downtown Houston, their hulls decorated with geometric patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "Get me connected to mission control," Amanda ordered, already pulling up her linguistic analysis software. "And somebody find me a fresh cup of coffee. Something tells me we're going to need it." The first transmission came exactly 17 minutes after the ships appeared. Amanda's software began processing the alien language immediately, comparing it to the database of signals she'd been studying for the past decade. To her surprise, she found patterns matching several of the deep space transmissions she'd documented years ago. "They've been watching us," she muttered, fingers flying across her keyboard. These signals weren't random. They were learning our languages. The message itself was brutally simple. "Submit or be eradicated. You have 1 hour to surrender your world to the Vaxari Confederation." Within minutes, Amanda was patched through to an emergency joint session of the UN Security Council. On screens around her office, she could see similar ships appearing over every major city on Earth. Global panic was setting in, but something about the Vaxari's message nagged at her professional instincts. Their language structure, she explained to the grim-faced military and political leaders, "it's perfectly translated into every human language. But there's a fascinating limitation. They have no words for concepts like spite or stubborn defiance. Their ultimatum assumes we'll either fight immediately or surrender. There's no linguistic framework for a third option." General Matthews, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. "What exactly are you suggesting, Doctor?" "Their language reveals their psychology. The Vaxari are methodical, binary thinkers. They expect either submission or resistance. But humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to think outside expected parameters." A slight smile crossed her face. "Let's give them something their linguistic framework can't process. Let's ask for time to prepare our response." "You want us to stall?" The Chinese representative looked skeptical. "I want us to introduce chaos into their orderly universe," Amanda replied. "Every minute they spend trying to understand our motivation is a minute we can use to our advantage. Their language suggests they've never encountered a species that didn't follow their expected behavior patterns. Let's show them why humanity is different." The Security Council debated for precisely 7 minutes before agreeing. Amanda crafted the response herself, using the Vaxari's own formal language structure. "The nations of Earth acknowledge your message and request 24 hours to prepare a proper response to the honored Vaxari Confederation." The silence that followed their transmission lasted nearly 5 minutes, an eternity in first contact situations. When the Vaxari finally responded, their message was noticeably less polished. "Request acknowledged. 24 Earth hours granted. Further delays will not be tolerated." As the Security Council rushed to implement humanity's long-held contingency plans, Amanda noticed something in the Vaxari's second message that made her heart race. Their perfect grammar had slipped, showing signs of agitation. They weren't just confused by humanity's response. They were worried. "Send everything we have on human history to my terminal," she ordered her team. "Especially the times when we were hopelessly outgunned but refused to quit. Let's give our visitors a crash course in why you should never back humans into a corner." Above Houston, the Vaxari ships hung like purple storm clouds, waiting for humanity's answer. They had no way of knowing that their simple ultimatum had already set in motion events that would shake the foundations of their confederation. Humanity's response was coming. just not the one they expected. Major Jack Cooper didn't believe in luck, but as he watched the Vaxari fleet's communications from his hidden station beneath Luna's surface, he had to admit Earth had caught a break. The aliens were rattled, and rattled enemies made mistakes. "Sir, you need to see this," Lieutenant Rivera called from her monitoring station. "We're picking up massive data transmissions between their ships. They're studying us." Jack moved to her console, watching as streams of intercepted data flowed across the screen. The Vaxari were voraciously consuming Earth's history, culture, and warfare records. But instead of strategic analysis, their internal communication showed growing concern. "They're obsessing over the Battle of Britain," Rivera noted, specifically Churchill's "We shall never surrender" speech. Their linguists can't seem to process why a species would choose near-certain destruction over submission. "Send me everything they're focusing on," Jack ordered, settling into his command chair. The lunar bunker, known only to a handful of military leaders, had been built for exactly this scenario. While Earth's visible defenses were primitive, humanity's real preparations ran far deeper. The Vaxari communications painted a fascinating picture. They had conquered 12 other civilizations, all of which had either immediately surrendered or launched desperate, doomed attacks. But as they dug through Earth's history, they encountered something they'd never seen before. A species that turned defeat into legend. "Sir, they're particularly fixated on something from the Battle of the Bulge," Rivera reported. "The American response at Bastogne? Nuts. They've sent it through their translation matrix 17 times, but they still can't understand why a surrounded force would mock their attackers." Jack allowed himself a grim smile. "Because they've never met humans before, Lieutenant. We're the only species crazy enough to laugh at death." Their surveillance caught a priority transmission between the Vaxari command ships. The aliens had discovered human entertainment media, and were growing increasingly disturbed by humanity's concept of Pyrrhic victory. The very idea that a species would dramatize and celebrate battles where they lost everything but denied their enemy victory seemed to violate some core tenet of Vaxari psychology. "They're running probability matrices," Rivera announced, her voice tight with excitement, "trying to predict our response. Every simulation they run keeps failing because they can't account for human spite as a variable." Jack activated the bunker's secure link to Earth Command. "This is Luna Base. The bogies are spooked. Recommend proceeding with Phase 1 of Operation Diaspora." The response came back instantly. "Confirmed, Major. Phase 1 is green. Give them something else to worry about." Jack turned to his crew, all handpicked for this mission years ago. "Light up the far side arrays. Let's show our friends what happens when they underestimate humanity's preparation level." Across the lunar surface, hidden energy signatures began to emerge. Nothing weapons-grade. That would come later. But enough to make the Vaxari realize their scans hadn't penetrated nearly as deep as they thought. The alien fleet's reaction was immediate and telling. Ships began repositioning, breaking their perfect formation for the first time since arrival. Their communication showed mounting concern about other possible hidden installations. "They're scanning everything now," Rivera reported. "Asteroids, orbital debris, every piece of space junk. They're finally realizing they don't have full tactical awareness of the system." "Good," Jack replied. "The more resources they waste looking for threats, the less they'll notice our actual movements." "How's their behavioral analysis coming?" "Still struggling, sir. They found records of the Alamo, Thermopylae, the U.S. Johnston at Samar. Their xenopsychologists are trying to understand why humans transform military disasters into inspirational stories. The closest translation they have for this behavior translates as malicious self-termination." Jack couldn't help but laugh. The mighty Vaxari Confederation, with all its superior technology and military might, was being undone by humanity's most basic trait, sheer, stubborn defiance. "Sir," Rivera's voice dropped to a whisper, "do you think the stories are true? About the other civilizations they've conquered?" Jack watched the alien ships swarm around Luna, searching desperately for threats that weren't there yet. Doesn't matter, Lieutenant, because we're going to make sure we're the last species they ever try to conquer. Above them, the Vaxari fleet continued its increasingly frantic scans, unaware that their greatest fear was already being realized. Humanity wasn't preparing to submit or fight. They were preparing to become something far worse, an enemy that couldn't be conquered. Colonel Kate Stinger Rodriguez stood in a vast underground hangar that officially didn't exist, watching as civilians filed into ships that theoretically hadn't been built. The facility, buried deep beneath the Nevada desert, was the culmination of 50 years of secret international cooperation, humanity's insurance policy against extinction. Status report. She barked into her comm, her voice echoing through the cavernous space. Loading proceeding at 97% efficiency, her XO responded. We've got similar reports from facilities in the Urals, the Australian outback, and the Sahara. Project Diaspora is on schedule. Kate watched as another family climbed aboard one of the sleek vessels. These weren't military ships. They were Orcs, designed to carry humanity's best and brightest into the depths of space. Each vessel contained a carefully chosen mix of scientists, engineers, teachers, doctors, and skilled workers, along with complete databases of human knowledge and culture. Ma'am, her intelligence officer interrupted. The Vaxari just accessed the Samson Protocol files we leaked. A smile crossed Kate's face. The leaked files detailed an apparent last resort plan to detonate every nuclear weapon on Earth simultaneously, rendering the planet uninhabitable. It was elaborate misdirection, designed to keep alien attention focused on Earth's surface rather than beneath it. How's their reaction? They're redirecting significant resources to analyze the threat. Their command channels are debating whether we're actually crazy enough to destroy our own planet. Kate checked her watch. 18 hours until humanity's deadline. Oh, they haven't seen crazy yet. The ship before her, designated ARC 217, completed its loading sequence. Like all the others, it was powered by hybrid engines, combining conventional human technology with reverse-engineered elements from crashed alien craft recovered over the decades. Not as advanced as Vaxari tech, but good enough to escape detection by their standard scans. Colonel, a technician rushed up, tablet in hand. We're getting reports from the lunar base. The Vaxari are starting to detect some of our decoy installations. Right on schedule, Kate nodded. Tell Major Cooper to initiate the next phase. Let's give them more ghost signals to chase. She moved through the facility, watching final preparations with pride. Every person here knew they might never see Earth again, yet there was no panic, no despair. Instead, she saw determination in their eyes. The Vaxari had made a crucial mistake. They'd given humanity time to embrace their fate and choose their response. Message from Dr. Blackwood at Houston, her comm crackled. The aliens are getting agitated. Their language patterns show increasing stress fractures. Tell her to keep them talking. The more they try to understand us, the less they'll see what we're actually doing. Kate reached the facility's command center, where massive screens showed similar operations unfolding around the globe. Humanity had learned from its own history. There would be no final stand, no glorious last battle. Instead, they would become what they had always feared, an invisible, unstoppable, eternal threat. Final checks on the ARC fleet, her XO reported. All ships show green. Emergency protocols are loaded and locked. Even if they catch some of us, they'll never get them all. And each ship carries enough knowledge and technology to rebuild. Kate added, we're not running away. We're spreading out. Like a virus they'll never cure. The comparison was apt. Every human vessel was designed to act independently, to hide, to adapt, and eventually to strike back. The Vaxari expected either submission or a suicidal last stand. Instead, they were about to turn their greatest victory into their worst nightmare. New contact. A sensor operator called out. Vaxari scout ships entering the atmosphere. They're doing deep scans of the mountain ranges. Let them look. Kate smiled. By the time they figure it out, we'll be gone. Humanity isn't just going to survive. We're going to haunt them across every star that they claim to own. She turned to her staff, seeing the same fierce resolve in their eyes. Send the signal to all facilities. Operation Hornet's Nest is now in full effect. When these bastards try to crush us, make sure they grab nothing but empty air and angry ghosts. Above them, the Vaxeri continued their methodical search, unaware that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their armies. It was their absolute refusal to play by anyone else's rules. Commander Marcus Ghost Thompson stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiance, watching Earth's last sunset through the armored viewport. In less than an hour, humanity would deliver its response to the Vaxeri ultimatum. His ship, along with a dozen others, would ensure that response was unforgettable. All hands report ready, sir, his XO announced. Nuclear launch facilities worldwide are aligned with the plan. Marcus nodded, his expression grave. And our real cargo? Secure. The quantum transmitters are disguised as warhead signatures. When the missiles launch, the Vaxeri won't be able to distinguish our data bursts from the nuclear signatures. Everything hinged on this moment. While the aliens fixated on the apparent nuclear response, the quantum transmitters would broadcast the coordinates of hundreds of rally points to the civilian fleet. Points that, thanks to Major Cooper's work on Luna, were carefully hidden in the gaps between Vaxeri scan patterns. Message from Colonel Rodriguez, his comm officer called out. Operation Hornet's Nest reports green across all zones. They're ready for our signal. Marcus checked the tactical display. The Vaxeri fleet hung above Earth in perfect formation, their ships arranged in geometric patterns that would have been beautiful if they weren't so threatening. But he noticed something. Tiny irregularities in their pattern, places where their disciplined lines showed slight wavering. They're nervous, he muttered. Good. Sir, his sensor officer interrupted. We're detecting increased energy readings from their fleet. They're powering up weapons. Right on schedule. They think they know what's coming. Marcus allowed himself a grim smile. Let's show them how wrong they are. The minutes ticked by with excruciating slowness. Marcus thought about everything that had led to this moment. The decades of secret preparations, the hidden facilities, the carefully crafted deceptions. Humanity had known first contact was inevitable. They just expected it to be friendly. Launch countdown initiated. The ship's AI announced. 10 minutes to global launch sequence. Marcus opened the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the commander. What we do in the next hour will echo through human history. Assuming we survive to write it. The Vaxeri think they're about to witness either our surrender or our extinction. Instead, they're going to learn why you should never, ever back humanity into a corner. The bridge crew straightened at their stations. They all knew this might be a one-way mission, but every person aboard had volunteered. The Vaxeri were about to learn that humans didn't need to win. They just needed their enemies to lose. 5 minutes to launch. Signal from Earth Command, the comm officer announced. Message reads, Give them hell, Ghost. Marcus took his command chair. Helm, plot our attack run. Make it look good. We need to sell this. The Defiance and her sister ships began moving into attack positions, making no attempt to hide their approaches. On the tactical display, he watched as the Vaxeri fleet reacted, shifting to engage what they thought was humanity's last, desperate assault. 2 minutes. Sir, the sensor officer's voice was tense. The Vaxeri are charging their main weapons. Energy readings are off the scale. Hold steady, Marcus ordered. Let them think they've got us figured out. 1 minute to launch. Marcus thought of the civilian ships hiding in their underground hangars, waiting for this moment. The Vaxeri were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their courage. It was their capacity for carefully planned chaos. Launch sequence initiated. Across the globe, missile silos opened. Nuclear weapons soared skyward, in a display that made the Vaxeri fleet shift into defensive formations. But mixed in with the missiles were the quantum bursts, carrying critical data to the hidden human fleet. Signal sent, his comm officer confirmed. Operation Hornet's Nest acknowledges receipt. Marcus watched as the Vaxari ships prepared to intercept the nuclear assault. They had no way of knowing that the real threat wasn't the missiles. It was the data hidden in their shadows. "Take us in," he ordered. "Let's give humanity's children the distraction they need to scatter to the stars." The Defiant surged forward, leading what appeared to be humanity's final charge. Above them, the Vaxari prepared to claim their victory, unaware that they were about to win exactly what humanity wanted them to win: an empty planet and an eternal nightmare. Dr. Jess Walker watched the holographic display as another piece of Vaxari technology gave up its secrets. Her makeshift lab, carved into an asteroid in the Kuiper Belt, wasn't exactly MIT, but it had already produced more breakthroughs in 6 weeks than her entire previous career. "Got another one," she announced to her team. "Their quantum shielding has a harmonic weakness. If we modulate our frequencies just right." She manipulated the projection, showing how human tech could exploit the flaw. "That's 3 vulnerabilities this week," Dr. Chen noted, updating their database. The Vaxari built their empire on technological superiority. They never expected their conquered subjects to understand their tech, let alone improve it. That's because they've never had to fight engineers who grew up taking apart everything they could get their hands on. Jess grinned, remembering her childhood habit of disassembling household appliances. Their asteroid base, designated Haven 7, was one of dozens of hidden colonies now scattered throughout the solar system. The Vaxari still orbited Earth, celebrating their victory over a supposedly dead world, while humanity's real strength grew in the shadows. "Incoming transmission," the lab's AI announced. "Colony Network reports successful test of hybrid drives in the Orc cloud. Stealth capabilities exceeding expectations." Jess pulled up the data. The hybrid engines, combining human ingenuity with reverse-engineered Vaxari technology, were proving more effective than anyone had hoped. They weren't as powerful as pure alien tech, but they were completely invisible to standard Vaxari scans. Dr. Walker, one of her junior engineers, burst into the lab. "The fabrication team just tested your modifications to the Vaxari power cells. Energy output is up 300%, and they're not showing any strain. Send the specs to all colonies immediately," she ordered. "And get me Colonel Rodriguez. She'll want to know we can start implementing Phase 2 ahead of schedule." The Colonel's hologram appeared moments later. "Please tell me you have good news, Jess. We've got colonies asking when they can start hitting back." "Better than good," Jess manipulated the display, showing her latest discoveries. "We've cracked their basic tech architecture. The Vaxari are so advanced they've become inflexible. They build everything to a single perfect standard, which means every piece of their technology has the same vulnerabilities. How soon can we weaponize this?" "We already have." Jess highlighted several sections of the data. "Their ships, their weapons, their communications, they all run on the same fundamental principles. Once you understand one system, you understand them all. And humans, we're really good at finding creative ways to break things." Rodriguez's hologram smiled. "Start distributing the knowledge. Every colony gets everything." The Vaxari thought they were being thorough, hunting down our military installations. They never considered that our real strength would come from civilian engineers and scientists. Jess turned to her team. "You heard the Colonel. Upload everything to the colony network. And I mean everything, even the failed experiments. Other colonies might see something we missed." As her lab burst into activity, Jess checked the latest intelligence reports. The Vaxari were still maintaining their blockade of Earth, but their formation was showing signs of strain. Ships were being pulled away to investigate ghost signals and phantom energy readings throughout the system. "Message from Haven 12, the AI reported. "They've successfully adapted Vaxari medical technology. Survival rates in low-gravity environments are now at 99%. Another message followed quickly. Haven 3 reports breakthrough in stealth material production. Can begin outfitting colonial ships within days. Jess felt a fierce pride as the reports continued. This was humanity at its finest, adapting, improving, refusing to accept limitations. The Vaxeri had expected to find either warriors or victims. Instead, they'd unleashed something far more dangerous. Human creativity unchained from earthly constraints. New contact. The AI's voice was urgent. Vaxeri patrol detected at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Let them come, Jess said, watching her team calmly secure their research. By the time they realize this base exists, we'll be gone, and we'll leave them a few surprises to remember us by. The Vaxeri ships passed blindly through the asteroid field, their superior technology searching for threats they couldn't comprehend. Below them, humanity's greatest minds continued their work, turning the aliens' own technology against them, one breakthrough at a time. Ryan Fox Mitchell crouched in the shadows of a Vaxeri supply depot on Outpost Station 9, watching the alien guards pass by with mechanical precision. 3 months of observing their patterns had taught him one crucial thing. The Vaxeri's greatest strength, their perfect, predictable efficiency, was also their greatest weakness. Team 2 in position, whispered his comm, ready to initiate Operation Chaos. Team 3, standing by, came another voice. Charges set. Ryan checked his chronometer. The Vaxeri changed shifts every 6 hours, down to the second. They never varied their routine, never adapted their patterns. Why should they? They'd never faced an enemy who survived their initial conquest. All teams, he breathed into his comm. Execute in 3, 2, 1. Across the station, human agents moved simultaneously. They didn't target the obvious military installations. That's what the Vaxeri would expect. Instead, they hit something far more precious, the aliens' sense of order. Team 2 released thousands of reprogrammed maintenance drones into the station's ventilation system. Team 3 detonated charges that weren't explosives at all, but devices that scrambled the station's environmental controls. Team 4 introduced a virus into the food production systems that made everything taste slightly wrong. Control, this is Fox, Ryan whispered. Phase 1 complete. Moving to Phase 2. The Vaxeri response was everything he'd hoped for. Alarms blared as the station's perfect routine dissolved into confusion. Guards abandoned their posts to chase malfunctioning drones. Engineers rushed to fix environmental systems that showed no actual damage. Food suppliers tried to recalibrate machines that were working perfectly. They just weren't producing what they were supposed to. Sir, his tech specialist reported, they're calling in their cybersecurity experts. Should we pull out? Negative, Ryan grinned. This is exactly what we wanted. Let them waste resources trying to fix problems that don't exist. Meanwhile, he gestured to Team 1, who had used the distraction to access the station's main computer core. They weren't trying to steal military secrets or sabotage critical systems. Instead, they were doing something far more devastating, introducing random variables into the Vaxeri's perfectly ordered world. Download complete, Team 1 reported. Operation Chaos data package uploaded to their network. It'll spread to every Vaxeri system that connects with this station. Ryan watched as the first effects of their true mission began to manifest. Lighting systems started shifting color temperatures at random intervals. Gravity fluctuated within safe but annoying parameters. Door sensors developed personalities, becoming selective about whom they would open for. Control, Operation Chaos is a success. Beginning extraction. But as his teams melted away into the shadows, Ryan left one final gift for their alien adversaries. Hidden in the station's communication array, a simple message began broadcasting on all frequencies. Humanity sends its regards. Hours later, safely aboard their stealth ship, Ryan reviewed the operation's results with his team. The Vaxeri response had exceeded their wildest expectations. The aliens had completely shut down the station, evacuated non-essential personnel, and initiated their highest level of security protocols. All that chaos, his XO marveled, and we didn't actually break anything important. That's because we're not fighting their military, Ryan explained. We're fighting their psychology. The Vaxari built an empire on perfect order and control. We're showing them that humanity doesn't play by those rules. His comm unit chimed with an incoming message from Resistance Command. Similar operations had been executed simultaneously across 6 other Vaxari installations. Each one targeted not the aliens' military capability, but their fundamental need for order and predictability. "Sir," his intelligence officer called out, "you're going to want to see this." The Vaxari just issued new protocols for all their installations. Ryan examined the intercepted orders and laughed. The aliens were implementing elaborate new security measures. Exactly the kind of rigid, predictable responses that his teams could exploit in their next operation. "Send word to all resistance cells," he ordered. Operation Chaos was a success. Phase 2 begins in 1 week. Let's show the Confederation what happens when they force humanity to get creative. The stealth ship slipped away into the darkness between stars, leaving behind a Vaxari empire that was slowly learning a terrible truth. They hadn't conquered humanity. They'd unleashed them. Lieutenant Emma Nova Harrison stood in the command center of Haven 13, watching as her plan unfolded across a dozen holographic displays. After months of studying Vaxari command structures, she had discovered their fatal flaw. They couldn't function without clear hierarchies. "Report from Operation Chaos teams," her intelligence officer announced. "Vaxari response times are slowing across all sectors. Their command chain is showing signs of decision paralysis." Emma nodded, manipulating the tactical display. Red dots representing Vaxari command ships were clustering together, seeking safety in numbers, exactly as she predicted. "They're doing it again," she observed. "Every time they face uncertainty, they default to centralized control. Send word to all strike teams. Execute Phase Sigma." Across Vaxari space, human agents began their carefully coordinated dance. They didn't target the clustered command ships. That would be too obvious. Instead, they struck at something far more valuable: the aliens' ability to trust their own data. "Deploying quantum ghosts," her tech team reported. "Vaxari sensors are picking up impossible readings. Their automated systems are flagging everything as both a threat and not a threat simultaneously." Emma watched as confusion spread through the alien fleet. The Vaxari relied heavily on AI-driven threat assessment, but human scientists had discovered a way to exploit quantum uncertainty in their sensors. Now their perfect systems were drowning in contradictory data. "Message from Dr. Walker's team," her comm officer called out. "They've successfully introduced the adaptive virus into the Vaxari's primary communication network. Their universal translator is starting to evolve." This was Emma's masterstroke. Instead of trying to break the aliens' translation systems, they had introduced subtle variations that grew more pronounced over time. Now, every message passed between Vaxari ships had a slightly different meaning than intended. "Show me their command channel traffic." The display shifted, showing communication patterns between Vaxari ships. Where once there had been clear, hierarchical lines of authority, now there was a chaotic web of cross-communication, as confused officers sought clarification for orders they no longer fully trusted. "Sir," her XO interrupted, "we're detecting massive energy spikes from their fleet. They're charging weapons. But they can't decide what to shoot at." Emma smiled. "Their sensors show threats everywhere and nowhere. Their translations suggest different priorities to different commanders. Their perfect military machine is paralyzed by information overflow." She turned to her crew, seeing the fierce pride in their eyes. "This is how we break the unbreakable. Not with superior firepower, but by turning their own perfection against them. They built an empire on absolute certainty. We're teaching them about doubt." "New development," her sensor officer called out. "Vaxari ships are breaking formation. They're firing on each other." Emma watched as the alien fleet began to fragment. Ships with conflicting data turned their weapons on vessels they could no longer trust. The Vaxeri's rigid command structure, faced with uncertainty it was never designed to handle, was eating itself alive. Message from Resistance Command, her comm officer announced. Similar breakdowns reported in every sector. The Vaxeri are losing control of their entire empire. Send word to all human colonies, Emma ordered. The time for hiding is over. Begin Operation Reckoning. Across the galaxy, hidden human settlements emerged from their concealment. But they didn't attack the fragmenting Vaxeri fleet. Instead, they began broadcasting a simple message on all frequencies. We tried to warn you. You should have asked nicely. Emma watched as the mighty Vaxeri Confederation, which had conquered 12 civilizations through overwhelming force, began to crumble from within. Their perfect order had been their pride, their strength, and ultimately their downfall. Ma'am, her XO asked quietly, do you think they understand yet what they did wrong? Emma studied the tactical display, where Vaxeri ships continued to fire on their own allies, trapped in a web of uncertainty and doubt that humanity had spent months weaving around them. They're learning, she replied. And the lesson will echo through the galaxy for generations. Never give humanity time to get creative. Because we won't just survive, we'll turn your greatest strengths into the weapons of your destruction. General David Iron Barnes stood on the bridge of the HSS Reckoning, a vessel that represented humanity's ultimate defiance. Built from captured Vaxeri technology and enhanced with human innovations, it was neither purely alien nor entirely human. It was something new, just like the civilization that had created it. Status report, he commanded, watching Earth grow larger in the main viewport. Vaxeri fleet is in full retreat, sir, his tactical officer reported. Their remaining command ships are broadcasting surrender signals on all frequencies. Authentication confirms. It's their high command. David allowed himself a moment to appreciate the irony. The mighty Confederation, which had arrived with such overwhelming force, was now begging for terms from the species they tried to exterminate. Message from Dr. Blackwood at Houston Control, his comm officer announced. She's decoded their surrender. They're asking how we did it. Show me their exact words. The message appeared on his display. To the unconquerable human race. We submit. Our understanding was flawed. Explain how you transformed defeat into empire. David thought about the past 6 months. The scattered colonies, the guerrilla strikes, the psychological warfare that had brought a galactic superpower to its knees. But most importantly, he thought about the moment they'd given humanity time to choose its fate. Open a channel to their high command, he ordered. Let's give them their explanation. The bridge crew worked quickly, establishing a connection that would be broadcast to every Vaxeri ship in the system. David stood straight, knowing his words would become part of history. This is General David Barnes of the Human Space Service. You asked how we did this. The answer is simple. You gave us a choice between submission and extinction. But humans, we always choose option 3. He paused, letting the translation catch up. You thought your technology made you invincible, but while you were perfecting your weapons, we were perfecting something far more powerful, the art of spite. You gave us 24 hours to prepare our surrender. We used it to ensure that your victory would cost you everything. The tactical display showed Vaxeri ships hanging motionless, their crews transfixed by the transmission. Every civilization you conquered faced the same choice: fight and die, or submit and live. But humanity, we chose to die on our terms, to transform our apparent extinction into your nightmare. You didn't conquer Earth. You released humanity into the galaxy. David gestured, and the view screen showed images from across former Vaxeri space. Human colonies emerging from hiding, hybrid ships patrolling new territories, and former subject species rising up against their weakened overlords. Your empire was built on technological superiority and perfect order. So we didn't fight your technology. We infected it with chaos. We didn't challenge your order. We introduced doubt. You thought you were gods among the stars, but we showed the galaxy that even gods can bleed." He allowed himself a small smile. "These are our terms. The Vaxeri Confederation will withdraw from Earth space. You will release all subjugated species, and you will remember this lesson. The most dangerous opponent isn't the one who fights back immediately. It's the one who takes the time to make defeat impossible." The response was immediate. The Vaxeri High Command transmitted their acceptance of all terms, their formal language protocols stripped away by fear and respect. "Orders, sir," his XO asked quietly. David watched as Earth's sunrise illuminated the bridge, casting long shadows across the deck of a ship that symbolized humanity's new place in the galaxy. "Send word to all colonies. Operation Diaspora is complete, but maintain combat readiness. The galaxy just learned that humanity can't be conquered. Some might take that as a challenge." As the Vaxeri fleet began its withdrawal, David reflected on the true victory they'd achieved. Humanity hadn't just survived, they'd evolved. They'd taken their greatest moment of weakness and transformed it into strength, their apparent defeat into lasting triumph. "Sir," his comm officer interrupted his thoughts. "Message from Luna Base. Major Cooper asks what we should tell the other species who might try to conquer Earth in the future." David's reply was simple. "Tell them to ask the Vaxari how that worked out."